The story of the Victus crew, or the Transit characters as they're better known as, consisting of Misty, Malton, Stuhlinger and Russman, came to an end in Black Ops 4 Zombies. These were characters that we were introduced to all the way back in BO2 in 2012. We'd followed their stories going from being just a random set of survivors trying to live through a post-apocalyptic zombified wasteland to becoming pawns for Dr. Richtofen, following his commands through the storyline to the very end, which eventually led them to their death. Or did it? How did the story arc of these 4 characters finish? Did they meet the same fate as a lot of other people? Death? Or are they still alive? What happened to Victus? But just before I continue, today's video is sponsored by Arena Breakout. For someone who enjoys first-person shooters, it's really difficult to actually find a good mobile one. And well, with Arena Breakout, I think this is it, guys. It is a next-gen immersive tactical FPS, and what makes this one different is it's a first-of-its-kind extraction looter shooter that pushes the limits of war simulation on mobile. And just getting into the details of this game, it's the most realistic and exciting FPS game I've ever seen made for mobile, compared to other FPS games which are more basic. On this one, you can customize your firearm of choice with the advanced gunsmith system. You can mix and match over 700 gun parts that fit in more than 10 different modification slots to create your weapon of choice. There are multiple ways of going about things and taking on enemies. You can sneak up to them using stealth, take them head on, or just go around and bypass the bullets altogether. I like this game because it basically gives you the freedom to fight however you desire. It's an extremely immersive next-gen tactical FPS experience. For players who are familiar with the game Tarkov, I would say Arena Breakout has more realistic gunplay. Another thing I like about it is we've all had enough of battle royales at this point, so this is definitely nothing like COD Warzone. This is more a breakout to win. It includes shoot and loot so you win and keep your cash. You have to strategize to get your loot and kill anyone in your way. Honestly, there's a lot to like about it. If you enjoy FPS games, you definitely want to check this out because for me right now, this is the best FPS game on the mobile. Arena Breakout will launch globally on the 14th of this month. Pre-registration is open right now on both Google Play and the App Store in the United States. So click the link in this video's description and pre-register. And make sure you stay tuned for more exciting updates by following Arena Breakout's official channels, which you'll find in the description. So there we go, download it for yourself, and thank you to Arena Breakout for sponsoring today's video. Before each one of these characters joined together to form the group known as Victus, they each had their own story. Russman was a member of Broken Arrow, a government-funded program created by the United States with the primary intention of preventing another undead outbreak. Misty had no real purpose in life, and we know very little about her background. She used to live on a farm, she worked at a bar called the Boathouse, but her life took the biggest turn when both of her parents died. Her mother died of an unknown cause, and her father was killed by zombies. Malton we know even less about. The first time we ever heard from him was in the bunker in Nuketown. He locked himself in there not only to hide from the zombies but also the ADAM robots. He travelled to Nuketown because he wanted to see if the ADAM initiative was real, if Project Toy Soldier was true, and if there was any evidence left over of it. And as for Samuel Stuhlinger, or Stu, Stewie, Sammy, Stuhlicker, Stupiger, whatever you want to call him. Well, after the destruction of the Earth, after the 3 rockets were sent from Moon and hit Earth and destroyed it, leaving it fractured and broken, Stuhlinger, along with a few other people, were the only few survivors left, and in order to assure his best chances of survival, he took shelter with a survival group called the Flesh. This group claimed that eating the flesh of the undead was the only way to survive the new world. However, what they didn't know was that eating the flesh of zombies would grant them the ability to hear voices within the ether. Eventually, each of these 4 characters would meet and form the group known as Victus. First, Misty and Malton met together. We don't exactly know how that came to be, how Malton ended up escaping the bunker in Nuketown and joining forces with Misty. And at the same time, eventually, after a few other events, Russman, after losing his job at Broken Arrow, jumped on a bus operated by one of Broken Arrow's robots, being Ted, where along the way he picked up another survivor who was Stuhlinger. And then eventually they came together when Stuhlinger and Russman drove to Hanford, and as they were driving past they saw 2 more survivors, being Misty and Malton, where they picked them up, and from then the Transit crew was formed. But since Stuhlinger could hear the voices of the Dark Ether in his head due to consuming the flesh of zombies, he was suddenly contacted by Edward Richtofen. Edward Richtofen at this time was inside of the MPD pyramid, and so because of his ability to communicate to people through the Dark Ether, Stuhlinger was able to hear what Richtofen was saying in his head. Richtofen attempted to manipulate Stuhlinger into completing a bunch of quests in order to ensure his survival. On the other side, Maxis contacted the Victus characters, telling them they need to complete a bunch of quests for him. So Richtofen and Maxis were fighting between one another to manipulate the victors' characters. We know the storyline. They ended up siding with Maxis, which in turn meant that they were doomed, they would be killed. Fortunately for them, a different version of Richtofen offered them a lifeline by opening up a portal in Buried, allowing them to escape before that dimension was destroyed. And really from there on, since Richtofen saved them, they pretty much did whatever he told them to do. Richtofen said to the Victor's crew, look, if you do a bunch of things for me, if I send you on a few missions and you collect a few things, in return, I'll offer you a safe place. I'll send you to a universe that's free of zombies, one that's peaceful, where you can live out the rest of your lives without needing to fight for your survival and constantly escape the undead. So that's what happened. Victus went on a few missions for Richtofen, where eventually they did everything that he asked. Finally, Richtofen said, okay, you've done everything, as I promised. Now what I'm going to do is place you on ice. I'm going to put you on stasis until I can find a perfect world for you to live in. That was where Victus waited for not too long, because unfortunately, Richtofen needed them again one last time, where he opened up the stasis chambers and told them they need to do one last thing for him, to travel to Tag der Toten to collect the Orgothan device, allowing Primus to destroy the multiverse, ultimately ending the cycle, ending the zombie outbreak and banishing everything to the Dark Ether, leaving only one perfect universe left, one free of the undead. So that's what happened. Victus travelled to Tag der Toten, they collected the Orgothan device for Richtofen, they sent it to him, but what they didn't know is in return, doing this, assisting Primus in destroying the multiverse, meant that they would be banished to the Dark Ether. Victus thought that this would be their final job before they were sent to a perfect world, one free of the undead. However, that wasn't true. Instead, they were banished to the Dark Ether. As we see in the Tag der Toten ending cutscene, once the multiverse is destroyed, everything starts to fade into darkness as it gets sent to the Dark Ether, and Stuhlinger's final words to Richtofen in his head were, "What are you talking about? We found the Orgothan device." Richtofen says, "I know, and I am so sorry." And that's when Victus are sent to the Dark Ether. And that was the last time we saw them. We have never heard from them again, or have we? In Classified, there is a radio from Stuhlinger, which doesn't link up to any other scenario we've seen take place in our zombie storyline, which left us to believe that potentially Stuhlinger sent this voice message to Richtofen, this telephone call. He tried to contact him from within the Dark Ether.
Is this thing on? Richtofen! Hey, Richtofen! You've been gone from my head a really long time! I gotta be honest, I'm freaking out a bit, man. It's so quiet. I can actually hear myself think. Do you know what that's like? It's not nice at all. So, listen, buddy, old pal, we gotta talk. You sent us here, of all places, but you forgot to tell us what to do. It's dark, it's damp, it's just really filthy. I think the roaches are crawling with roaches. How is that even possible? Wait, shoot! Am I even talking to the right Richtofen? Oh, you could be the other one, right? Or the other one. Yeah, you know what? Just go talk to your Richtofen pals at the hoity-toity Ricky Gang Clubhouse and find out what the we're supposed to be doing!
So after Victus were banished to the Dark Ether, Stuhlinger attempted to contact Richtofen, where he basically says to him, "Richtofen, you've been gone from my head for a really long time. You sent us here of all places, but you forgot to tell us what to do. It's dark, it's damp, it's filthy." He then realises that he might not even be talking to the right Richtofen, which, well, he wasn't. But of course what Stuhlinger didn't realise is that Richtofen is dead. Once the multiverse was destroyed, that also led to the death of our Primus and Ultimus characters, Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey. So that's the reason why he hasn't heard from Richtofen for such a long time. It's because Richtofen is dead. And when Stuhlinger says, "Well, you've sent us here, it's a dark, damp, cold place, but you haven't told us what to do," that's because they are trapped within the Dark Ether. Richtofen can't tell them what to do because he no longer exists, at least not that version. So when Victus were banished to the Dark Ether in Tag der Toten, they didn't die as soon as they entered there. They were still alive, which then leaves us with the question, well, are they still alive today in our current zombie story, which would be Cold War? Cold War Zombies takes place in our new universe that was created after the end of Tag der Toten. As we see in the Cold War Zombies story, a lot of things that were banished to the Dark Ether in Tag started to spew out again, but some things remained trapped there are loads of survivors within the Dark Ether still trapped there from the old world. They still existed during Cold War story, meaning if they were sent there during the same time that Victus were, there is a chance that the Victus characters, just like the other survivors in there, are still alive. But that chance is very, very minuscule. There are a few reasons why this is. One, we know time in the Dark Ether works differently to time in reality. It is faster. I don't know the exact conversion, but just going off my memory, I think in Alpha and Omega, Samantha was there for, I think it was like a couple of days in our time, but in Dark Ether time it was something like 4 months, which shows you how much faster time in the Dark Ether is. Tag Der Toten happened in 1965, the Cold War zombie story is in the 80s, so that's at least 15 years later. What that time conversion would be in the Dark Ether, I don't know, but even without that, they'd have to survive everything within there. We know there are zombies, Dark Ether creatures, Elder Gods, the Forsaken. If we listen to this radio from another survivor trapped within the Dark Ether, he tells us anyone who is left surviving in the Dark Ether either bows to the Forsaken, those who don't are consumed by him, and the rest of the survivors cower in the shadows, hiding.
It has been a long time. I can hardly remember before. There is only now. And now is not a time I would wish upon anyone. This place has changed. It is unsustainable. Many bow before one. Those who do not are consumed. The rest of us, we cower in shadow. Some manage to escape, but the crossing between worlds is dangerous. They arrive home disfigured, changed into fiery demons, horrors devoid of humanity. I hear they are killed almost instantly, when all they wanted was to escape. But they were no longer human. So the good soldiers bring their suffering to an end.
So as you even heard from him there, some people have managed to escape the Dark Ether, but crossing in between worlds, between the Dark Ether and reality, is dangerous. Not to mention the fact that if you do manage to survive in there, anyone that's been in there for a prolonged amount of time, that's been exposed to it, they don't come out the same, whether that's physically or mentally. Sometimes they come out disfigured, sometimes they come out with their minds altered, having delusions or paranoia. Meaning on the very small off chance that Victus did survive and that they are still alive in there, they probably are suffering from some kind of mental or physical change. But at the same time, there is also the very small chance that they're completely normal and, like other survivors we've seen, are still in there surviving. To me, they're not really the type of characters that would hide in the shadows like a lot of other people. It seems like they'd fight against whatever creatures are in there, but that would be stupid. That would lead to their death. That would have led to them getting the attention of the Forsaken, who would have devoured them straight away. So perhaps hiding would be their best chance. That's if they're still alive, being all of them. Maybe one or two of the Victus characters are dead. Maybe Misty and Malton died and Stuhlinger and Russman are still alive in there. Or perhaps they've all turned into zombies themselves and we've killed them in Cold War without even realising it, or they've become some Dark Ether creature, or have been consumed by the Forsaken. We don't know, and until we get a proper answer on it from Treyarch, or something happens in their next game that 100% closes off the idea that they could be alive, then there is still the chance. I would say there's a 1% chance that Victus are still alive in the Dark Ether, and a 99% chance that they're dead, or they're zombies. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video. And by the way, let me know in the comment section below which set of characters should we look at next to see how they came to an end. The Shadows of Evil crew, the Mob of the Dead cast. Let me know.